to Indo-Japan Relations, member of 22nd Century Academy from Japan and Ayurveda Society in Japan. Welcome, sir. We also have with us Mr. Amitava De, the Scientific Officer from the Department of Electronic and Communication Engineering from Guwahati University. Welcome, sir. And we have with us Mr. Anu Kare, the moderator of this session, who is the head of the School of Biology from MIT World Peace University. Welcome to you too, sir, Dr. Kare.
Yes.
And before formally handing over the session to Dr. Kare, I would like to make an important announcement for our attendees and participants who have joined us in this very morning. If time permits, we will have a few question and answers directed to our esteemed panel, and the moderator will do so if we have time. So I'll request the attendees to post their questions in the chat box or in the Q&A section, which they can see in their screens. And of course, if we have time, Dr. Kare will be redirecting those questions to our panelists. So thank you so much once again. I welcome you all on behalf of MIT World Peace University, and I now formally hand over the session to the moderator. Over to you, Dr. Kare.
Yes. Thank you, Purnima. Thank you for setting the tone for today's session. So I welcome all panelists and all participants. So before going ahead with the discussions and listening thoughts and views of our panelists, I'll just introduce them to you. So to start with, we have Mr. Mukul Goyal, the founder of Make Me Builder with us. He's also currently steering up the startup venture of Make Me Builder, which is a marketplace for construction services. And he has a long-standing experience in this domain, like urban development, real estate with EMAR, MGF, DLF, ports, and special economic zones in special economic zones with Adani Power, Bechel, Black and Wedge. So before this current venture, he has held roles as head of corporate strategy, PMO head responsible for enabling critical decision making by aligning top leaders, issue resolution, and focus prioritization, which is a very niche, I think, area when it comes to this corporate strategy management and placements. Placements in the sense aligning their roles with the industry and academia and other government agencies also. So he has long-standing experience in steering large format, complex, mixed use, multi-phase mega project portfolios through combination of structured processes and value-added systemic interventions. And he has participated in projects involving public-private partnership, PPP, GV, like joint ventures and consortium, which is again I think the thrust area when it comes to Industry 4.0 or even when we talk about Industry 5.0. So he has exposure to all phases of the project life cycle, working with developers, EPCs, and consulting firms in US, Europe, Saudi, Southeast Asia, and India for over 18 years. And he has in-depth knowledge of financial and legal principles of relationships between partners, consultants, vendors, and contractors. And apart from that, he has also set up ERP and 3D modeling and internet-based collaborative platforms and dashboards for shared process in real estate and infrastructure development companies. So yes, we welcome you, Mr. Mukul Goyal, and we are sure that your experience will help us guide more in this domain of sustainable research and development in today's sessions. So then we have Mr. Tomoe Isobai. He is a freelance advisor to Indo-Japan relationships and also member of 22nd Century Academy, Japan, Ayurveda Society in Japan. So he has a long-standing experience and with significant contributions in the field. Like after 37 years of career at Sharp Corporation, Japan, residing over 20 years in Saudi Arabia, UAE, for entire EMEA, USA, Mexico, and India, and visiting over 60 countries across the globe, engaged in sales and marketing of consumer electronics, domestic appliances, communication products, office automation devices, and solar power generation systems. So that Sharp manufactures. In September 2016, he retired from Sharp, and since early 2017, he has started to become a bridge connecting India with Japan. So that's very important in terms of the development of research, and not only research and development, but also the relationship between two countries. So that's very important role he is playing since 2017. So currently he is based in Pune as a freelance advisor, mentor, facilitator in commercial, academic, and cultural aspects. So covering all domains of life, for that matter, I would say. And also he has been invited for many conferences and functions as guests for speeches, lectures, and panels as is today, which included IIT Bombay, IIM Kolkata, and even IIM Indore. So total number of opportunities he has been given in India, Japan for delivery speeches, and to panel the sessions is more than 100. So, like, to be precise, more than 65 sessions he has handled in India, and more than 35 sessions in Japan. So he has been invitee to more than 100, you can say, events when it comes to Indo-Japan relationship. So that talks about his contribution to the relationship between two countries. So then not only at government forums, but he has also been invited to private organizations, and including right from the schools to the universities. So that also talks about the sphere that he is covering, not only at the higher education level, but he has also been invited to the schools for the students and for the kids to understand how the relationship between two countries and two different cultures matter. So since 2007, like August 2019, he has been teaching and guiding at MIT ADT University to MBA and BBA students as an adjunct faculty of College of Management. So also, yes, we formally welcome you, Mr. Tomio Asogai. We are sure that your rich experience will guide us in today's session for sure. Then we have Dr. Amitava Day. He is a scientific officer at Department of Electronics and Communications at Guwahati University. His MBA in Telecom Management from Annamalai University. And before joining Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering at Guwahati University, he has rich experience of working with organizations like Equant Technology, then Bharat Electronics, and also BPL Telecom. So he has quite a lot of experience, and I would say contributions in the field of electronics and communications, not only at private organizations, but also at university level. So he's the one who has moved from industry to academia, and I think his thoughts and his views also be important in today's discussion. So yes, we welcome you all formally, and we'll start with today's discussion. I'll request you to give opening remarks before we start with the formal discussion as of today. So I will request Mr. Mukul Goel to start with his opening remarks, and then we will move ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Amitava, for this brilliant introduction. My background is civil engineering and construction, to be more specific. And in today's session, I would like to highlight the opportunities in research and innovation in the construction industry at the consumer level, at the urban development level, and how young people can participate in the innovation in the construction industry by the virtue of entrepreneurship, product development, manufacturing, engineering, and design.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Goel. We'll look forward to your thoughts and views. Yes, can I request Mr. Tomio Asagai to give his opening remarks?
Well, good morning, and thank you for your introduction. And I'm very happy to be here, and it's a privilege and honor to be interacting with the audience here today and talk about a potentiality of Indo-Japanese relations. I'm always keep talking about how important it is. India and Japan, the two countries, can become the strongest partners in the long term. Not the US, not any other countries, obviously not with China. The India will have a lot of potentiality, collaborating with Japan. And in the R&D, obviously, Japan has made a great success after the World War II, as you know. And in a private company, just as I was involved, I really experienced a lot of, R&D activities, and it has become the driver for, the growth of the Japan as a total economy. I can just touch upon that. And I also want to focus on Northeast region of India, because we are now focusing on this particular region. And I will also touch upon some of the developments between India and Japan from the government sector, what's happening for this region. So I'll be touching on, even if you like to hear from me, the beyond Industry 4.0, which is now prevailing. But Japan has a new concept beyond Industry 4.0. What will be that like that? And this can be some kind of basic guidelines for all the Indian researchers to think about for long term. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That sounds interesting. Yeah, we'll look forward in the next half an hour. Yes, now I request Mr. Amit Sharma to give his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Kalyan. Very good morning to all the panel members. And so I'm basically now from the academy, and I know what hurdles the academy is facing for promoting research, high quality research or whatever. So today I'll basically highlight the challenges towards sustainability of R&D, maybe industrial R&D or academic R&D, and hurdles the academy and industry is facing towards a good collaborative framework. So I'd look forward to hear from you, all the panel members and participants also. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Amit Sharma. Yes. So we'll start with our discussion. So just give me a minute. Yeah. So like as Purnima said initially, in terms of the sustainable research and development, and particularly today's discussion in the context of the Indian economy. So as all of us know, like Indian economy is currently stands the 5th largest economy by nominal GDP and 3rd largest in terms of PPP, basically. So it has given a very, you can say, thriving platform, I would say the environment in terms of the development for R&D. And even as a lot of countries, they are showing interest in India, like they are setting up their research and development centers in India, where because we are having largely the young population, and that reduces basically the dependency ratio, and also it makes the talent pool quite easy for the countries, those who are coming from for the companies, those are coming from the countries outside India. So in the current scenario where the foreign direct investments are it stands about more than $75 billion. That is the data for 2019. So I'd like to start with the question that what is your view on the current R&D infrastructure in India, and what are the gaps and how can we address those gaps basically? So this is the question to all panelists. So we can go one by one and hear your views on this particularly, because R&D development, sustainable R&D, robust R&D is very much vital for the development of not only the economy, but the long-term growth and nurturing the talent at the same time, development of the industry. So what is your view on the current development, R&D development, and what are the gaps that you find that we can bridge by taking the efforts, not only from industry perspective, also from the academic perspective. So how academics can also participate in that bridging of the gap. So we'll start with Mr. Mukul Goel. Yes, sir, we'd like to hear you on this one.
You see, I will specifically talk about what relates to my field, that is civil engineering and construction.
Yes. Yeah.
When I graduated from IIT Bombay in civil engineering in 1990, there was a lot of research initiatives going on in my department. However, what I saw, first of all, the traditionally, the best academic institutions in India were established by the government, namely IITs and regional engineering colleges, so as to call NITs right now. Most of the research that I saw happening in 1990s was mainly in the area of infrastructure, which is government driven. And the research, of course, needs money. And what a university does in terms of research is obviously driven by where the funding comes from. And in those days, funding either came from the government or the big corporations like L&T and the Godrej's of the world. On the other hand, India was trying to become a SME country, small scale industries, and a large section of Indian population, Indian entrepreneurs is still driven by SME sector. So what I feel, I'm not sure how much the present scenario is. I feel that universities, especially private universities, could play a larger role in tying up with the SME sector, who are actually making and doing things at the consumer level, at the market level for the general public, can make a good contribution, rather than the public universities going after public funding, that too for infrastructure projects, which are typically in our industry related to railways and dams and the airport, cement, steel and concrete. But construction engineering, civil engineering has gone a lot beyond steel and cement. There is a lot of innovative materials, innovative construction, innovative construction techniques, prefabrication. There is a lot going on at the consumer level and the entrepreneurs who are building the urban environment.
Right. Yes. So, I think that is very important that earlier the research was largely driven by the government institutions or government funding agencies. And now, as you are saying, it has to be, industry has to participate more towards R&D, not only in terms of manufacturing and other production practices, isn't it? Yeah, right. And then the role of private university is also important. Yes. So I'll go to Mr. Tomio Isagai. Sir, what do you how does the progressive initiatives like Make in India, Startup India, and Digital India help in new innovations? And what is the role of industries and academic institutions that can play a role in the current scenario, I would say, in terms of sustainable R&D development, particularly in the context of Indian scenario? And as also you highlighted, one of the regions like Northeast region in India, which is not participating in terms of the industrial development and other aspects. So how can we focus on that area also, and how do we see the partnerships building up for future?
Well, I think from the 2 points of view, the government initiatives is one. This can be a central government or the local government. One initiative has to be taken in a very strong slide. Otherwise, just depending on the private sector cannot run anything, because private sector are looking at a very short distance, short term. The R&D, sustainable R&D means a long-term investments. For example, private sectors, they cannot hire any freshers because of the short-term perspective. They are hiring whoever ready to engage, ready to perform, ready to create some values, right? But the freshers are not, obviously. So in Japan, for example, it has been a long-term strategy that freshers are hired every year. And freshers are, obviously, they are not competent, and they are going to be trained for like 2 to 3 years time. After that, only those young people can start contributing to the company, all right? So in India, I don't see that kind of trend. Freshers, engineers are very rarely hired by especially in the SMEs, right? So this has to be initiated by the government support. Otherwise, R&D expenditure cannot be growing up. I think these are the one aspect. And the second aspect is, of course, academia. Academia has to do a lot more, practical offerings. Obviously, internship is one, but it is not, it is done, I think, just for the sake of internship. It's not for the developments or human resources or making them actually employable. I don't see that yet. As far as I know, with my limited understanding and limited experience here in India, I've been here only 10 years, so I may not be correctly stating this, but I can see that there is a potential that academia has to also well into the development of new technologies, R&Ds, together with the private sector. Obviously, those collaborations has to be funded some way from the government authorities, so that they can be encouraged to invest in that kind of stuff, right? Those are the things. And particularly in the Northeast, I see a lot of potential there, but still not, it's an untapped region yet. See, for example, from the Japanese perspective, we don't see much investment in Northeast, but there are a lot of scopes of industries and business potentialities that are there. And Japan has developed so many things in many sectors, industrial sectors of all kinds. So, you can think of taking advantage of those expertise and know-how that Japan has developed to be incorporated, introduced into India, and particularly in the Northeast. That can be another potentiality. And fortunately, Japan is committed to the developments of the Northeast region as well. This is something very important for you to know. There is a great potential from the private sector, from the government sector, from the infrastructure to development and the human resource development as well. This can be collaborated in between those two countries in academia and in the private sector and the government sector. This is the PPP, right? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Tomi Usagai. So yes, the important points, like it's good news for us when you say hiring the freshers and training them for 2 to 3 years. So it's good for universities like us, where we are also looking for the employment opportunities for our graduates and postgraduates. And also, when you said the untouched region of Northeast, that is also one of the potential areas where government and private companies, they can look towards it together. So I'd like to go with the same question to Amita Bhatte, because you also handle the hurdles when it comes to the industry and academia. So what are your views, sir, on this particular aspect of Make in India initiatives and also the bridging gaps between industry and academia? Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. So what I have seen, particularly in Northeast, so you will find very little encroachment of the industry sector coming in and setting up their hub in Northeast. Academia is doing their part, but the universities, particularly, if you consider the industry academia partnership, so it is limited to IIT Guwahati, I would say. The universities, in terms of research, they are playing relatively very small role in research activity of particularly Northeast or country. So this is a contrasting scenario with the advanced economies, where universities play a crucial role in creating talent and generating high quality research. Now, as I saw earlier, that universities were receiving a good amount of funding from the central government for carrying out projects and research. But nowadays, some rule regulations by the funding agency has been made more stringent. So now universities and colleges are not getting that much of fund. So you can say the central government reducing in higher academic institutes. So that gap has to be bridged by either the central PACs who are also involved in a good amount of research, or by the private sector. Now, the real problem, what happens, suppose a university approach a private sector for a consultancy project or such type of thing. Now, when the what it is happening, despite of several guidelines from the UGC and AICT, several guidelines regarding industry academic collaboration, the institutions are not ready to collaborate. There are several factors. So what it is happening, and one more aspect is that the quality of research and the outcome of the universities is not available in the private domain. So that is one thing that attract the PACs and the corporate sector to invest in R&D in the universities. Next, if I go to the academic research again, so what it happens, the academic research is carried out, but that do not specifically address the industry concern, means it is not tuned to the industry problems or industry issues. So while granting a consultancy project, the industry often steps back due to inadequate infrastructure, means from the company's perspective, and lack of trained manpower. Manpower are trained in universities, but in specified domains, but may not directly relate to the company needs. So that is one problem. And even if one problem I have seen, even if a project, consultancy project is guided by the industry, then academia takes a lot of time, and they do not really meet the pace at which outcomes are expected by the sponsoring industry. So this is in the field of R&D and development. And same industry academic collaboration is hugely missing in terms of faculty industry collaboration, student industry collaboration. So with this remarks, I have to.
Yes, thank you. Like one of the points that you highlighted is very important. Like in the current scenario, government agencies are funding more the higher institutions or the premier institutions like IITs and ISETs, but their funding to the universities and colleges has reduced. So that is, yes, that is one of the very important points. And then that is the gap you see, and you can like what you are saying is that gap has to be bridged by the funding from PSUs and corporate sectors is very important and valid point. And that will also, I think, direct the research of the universities and colleges towards the industry requirements, isn't it? Yeah. So yes. My next question is in the same line, like what all of you have put forward the points and the gaps. So the current government spent in R&D on R&D is less than 1% of the GDP. So what is your view on this? And apart from increasing the spend, what measures government should take for the sustainable development in India particularly? And I would like to hear all of you on this one, because all of you are coming from different domains. So your experience and thoughts will be important in terms of understanding the different perspectives of this particular scenario where the government spend is less, and then how do we increase it? And then how do we make the research sustainable where the spending is so less, and how we can like take it for the growth in the long run? Yes, so we can start with Mr. Tomio Isogai. So yes, sir.
Okay, sure. For that, I think government should take some initiatives for long term, and R&D expenditure has to be much greater than where it is now. As you see, even if you can just check quickly Wikipedia, you will see how many percentage of R&D expenditure against GDP based on PPP, and it is quite low. And per capita is way low in India, obviously because of the population. But I think without such a government initiative, because just imagine, my recommendation to the Indian government and Indian academia is that to increase the collaboration, international collaborations are a lot more. You can invite international speakers, international faculties, professors, as a visiting professors. Now, you can do that online. See, this is another advantage. You don't have to invite them physically to be in India. They should not come to India, but they can be invited as a faculty, visiting faculty, honorable member, and so forth, so that, in the R&D investments can be spent on that. And those, of course, these are a little costlier than hiring the local faculties, of course, but this can be invested for long term. If the government initiative is taken for that direction, all the private sector academia or public sector academia as well, they can spend more money into the R&D, inviting those resources from abroad, from Japan, from the US, from anywhere else, right? So that the inspirations, aspirations can be elevated higher amongst the students as well as the faculties here. So that is one way that you can, drive the R&D in India. Obviously, India has a lot of priorities to be taken. That's why the government is not able to, cannot afford to spend such money into the development for the future, because they are looking at the very short term. But this has to be, reconsidered. Even private sectors are looking at the short term profit, right? It's not a long-term investment for 10 years or at least 5 years to 10 years perspective. They are not doing that. Only few people are doing. Only few large corporations can do. They can afford. But the middle class, small scale industry cannot do that, right? Obviously. And the academia as well. They are looking for short term. It's not looking for to develop a great R&D center like that. No academia can afford to do that because of the lack of funding. That has to be initiated by the government, either central or the local. That's my view. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Very important point, sir, and a very insightful point, and which I'm sure will come from the experience of 40 years that you have. Like what you're saying is innovating human resources in terms of faculties should be considered as one of the investments for R&D development, because otherwise R&D developments are only seen in terms of infrastructure and equipment. So what you are raising is a very important point. Like even calling the human resources like faculty, guest faculty, or the expert faculty at university level or at colleges should be seen as an investment in long term to nurture the young talent of India. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for this thought. Yes, sir. Mukul Goyal, sir, what are your views on this one?
You see, I think India's problem at the juncture it is standing right now is not really R&D, but it is innovation. A large chunk of India, does not have employment. It does not have housing. It does not have sanitation and water. So for fundamental needs, what we need more is innovation and not R&D. And the way innovation will happen will be through entrepreneurship. So what I feel is lacking is supporting the entrepreneurial talent among youngsters, which will be connected to their universities and foster innovation. I mean, again, I do agree that government has a big role to play in sustainable R&D that is of a long-term nature. But there are a lot of things that do not require R&D, but requires immediate implementation of the research that has already been done, so as to use the wheel that has already been invented. So I think, just like I give example of IIT Bombay, a lot of research and innovation that is happening at IIT Bombay is not just driven by the industry or the big corporates and the PSUs and the government. There is an institution called SIGN. SIGN is a innovation-based entrepreneurial incubation cell where they fund IIT Bombay graduates being able to connect and use the resources of the institute and come up with startup ventures. And they have come up with some wonderful innovations. Like, one of the young graduates of IIT Bombay came up with the drone technology they won a multi-million-dollar contract with the Indian Army. So I think incubating entrepreneurial talent and creating innovation-based startups and involving the faculty and university has a lot of resources, that are sometimes going idle. So why not give those resources to your young students who, instead of getting a job, are trying to start an innovation-based startup venture? And that is something that, I have embarked upon doing, is a construction industry platform where I have 100 interns working with me all over India, from things related to construction technology, construction design, architecture, interior design, digital marketing, and whatnot. So youth-oriented, entrepreneurial-driven innovation is what I personally root for.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the important point that you are referring is the innovation and basically aligning the resources at the university or the college level for incubating the young talent. Yes. So can we do something in terms of government supporting these incubators at the university and college level? Yes. So resources are there, but they may be short because of the equipment on the infrastructure level. So how do you see the government supporting the incubation centers at university or college levels? Because as Dr. Isugai said, the current funding is focused on the institutions of elite, like maybe IITs, IIMs, and ISIS, like those institutions. So how do we draw government attention in terms of funding to universities and colleges? Yes.
The government had started the program of Startup India, in which they tried to involve private incubators and they tried to fund the private incubators to support the entrepreneurial ventures. And I don't know, for whatever reason, that whole mandate of incubation was taken away from the private institutions to public institutions. And maybe there are, issues of governance that made the government go into that direction. However, I do, that my friend just told me needs to be driven by the government. But incubation research, entrepreneurial research, innovation-based initiatives, I think need to be self-sustainable. And you see, incubation is not something, that requires a lot of money. Incubation is basically support, intellectual support. I mean, all you need is, as part of incubation support, is provide space to a bunch of youngsters to sit together and guide them or mentor them. So I think the private universities can set up their entrepreneurial innovation incubation cells, which can be self-sustaining, which can leverage the existing university infrastructure to support entrepreneurial ventures. And, they can work as a venture capitalist, take the equity stake in the ventures. And once things move forward, the universities can come with a self-funding, self-sustainable model for incubation, basically supporting their own students to improve the prestige of their own universities, that, hey, this university is not just handing out degrees. If my child goes to this university, he has a chance of becoming an entrepreneur.
Yes. Yeah. We'll go to Amit sir for the same question, as he's also representing a different industry. Yes, sir. Should I repeat the question? Like in the current government spend is less than 1% of the GDP. And in your view, apart from increasing the spend by the government, what other measures should be taken for the sustainable development of R&D? Yes, Amit sir. You're on mute mode. You're mute.
Okay. So I totally agree with Mukul Goel sir when he says that India, which is having a lot of other primary needs, cannot so much afford to invest in R&D. R&D. So incubation and startups are the other way solution, and from incubation and startup will also will indirectly boost the R&D. So that is I totally agree with that. Now, if I talk about the sustainability of R&D, incubation centers or startup financing the startup in academy. So I'd like to mention that Atal Incubation Center, that is a startup incubation startup initiative by the government. So that is funding a good amount to all the universities for setting up their incubation center. But yes, for that strong collaboration of the industry, means your proposal has to be sanctioned by one industry. Means collaboration has to be there in industry. Other than that, I have been coordinating the Techie 3 project in Guwahati University, particularly in the technical setup. So the Techie 3 project started with some new AICT mandates. We had to follow AICT mandates. So AICT has really given us a lot of guidelines regarding startup, student internship in the industry. And Techie 3 provided us with the funding for even seed level grant to the faculty for doing some industry relevant work, and that way means promoting some startups type of environment. But these are not very huge grant. These are not like Techie 3, that fund will be continued for 10 years. It is not like that. It's time-bound grant. So for 3 or 3.5 years, so government has given short amount of fund, because for startup, you don't require really very huge amount of money. A few faculty could do well, few students also could do well. And yes, few startups have come out from that Techie 3 grant. So, and Techie 3 is not limited to, say, Guwahati University or Northeast. It is for underdeveloped states all over India. So, I believe in startup and incubation, and in that way, investing more in more share of GDP in R&D is really possible with small contributions from the government in terms of small term projects. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you for your sharing. Thank you for sharing the details like Atal Incubation Center and TechView projects. But then I had a question in the same context. Like when it comes to the TechView projects, if we see the TechView projects, they give more funds to the government institutions, and the funding is quite less when it comes to the private institutions. So how do you see how, like, government institutions, those are already self-sustainable, those already get funds from the government institutions, isn't it? So they are funded more from this TechWay. But then private institutions like MIT World Peace University, they don't get those that much amount of the funds. Like we have a university or the institution in the local vicinity, COEP, which gets quite amount of chunk from the TechWay projects. But when we come to MIT World Peace University, the amount of the funds that we receive is less compared to the COEP, whereas our setup is larger than COEP. Isn't just one example I'm saying, there is nothing particular about it. But then how do you see how to build this confidence in terms of the TechWeave or the government agencies to fund more towards the private universities or private colleges? How we can do that?
Yeah. Yes, you rightly said the private universities are getting less government funds. In TechWeave, I believe private universities were given fund only for collaborative research. Yeah, you have to collaborate with some other faculty and ask from some state science and technology university. They were offering you grant. Now, in this context, yeah, the government institutions and government universities are getting more amount. So TechWeave, they allotted 10 crore, 15 crore like of grant for 3 years. So actually, it's a government policy. I'm also not much aware of why government do such type of one thing might be that for in the government institution, the government only provide the salary component. In private institutions, you have your own revenue generation methods. So I'm probably not the right person to answer on exactly that. That is a very high authority matter. Okay.
Yes. My next question is to Mr. Tomio Isagai. How do we see the Indo-Japan relationships in terms of providing the research opportunities to the universities and colleges in India? Like, what are the opportunities that are available with us as an Indian university or Indian institutions particularly? And how to get connected with those institutions in the Japan, those who are in the same domain as of us, like with different perspectives. Yes.
Okay. As you may know, Japan has been granting some big amount of money for projects in India. It's been more than 1,600 crores of Indian rupee money have been spent by the Japanese government on many projects. Majority are spent on the infrastructure. Yes, and some of them are in the educational sector as well. And there is one platform. There is a government organization. Let me just share my screen so that I can show you one important thing. Let me just show you this so that I can explain better, right? Here is number 4, joint research opportunities in Japan. I just have prepared some of the slides here. Is that here is something about Beyond the Industry 4.0. That's a totally different topic that I'm prepared to do so. But anyway, just sorry for skipping. Yeah, here is joint research opportunities in Japan. Number 1, are you visible? It is visible?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So one is Sakura Science Program by JST. JST is a Japanese organization, Japan Science and Technology Agency. It is based on the invitation by the Japanese institution to Indian institutions, and they can invite, you can send people, around the 10 people in a group from the academy, from the institutional academy, academic institutions, I mean, from 1 week to 3 weeks to Japan to learn about Japanese development, Japanese innovations, meeting with some industry experts and researchers, as well as visiting some of the great research centers and so forth. Number 2 is a scholarship given by the Japanese government to the academicians, I mean, researchers as well as students. And even this can go beyond 1 week. It can be a 1 year time, full scholarship can be taken. And one of those Sakura Science Program is very important in the science and technology field because they can grant money, all expenses for that trip to Japan. And this is a great gateway to learn about Japanese industry and innovation and R&D. So this is, I'm always promoting this program to be considered by the Indian academic institutions like Guwahati University. I really like you to consider. There is this program. If you have one association, there must be one party in Japan, because the condition to be met for this program is applications cannot be individuals, can be only institutional, and each sending organization like Guwahati University should find a receiving organization in Japan, the counterpart in Japan. If you have got one such association, then the other counterpart can apply for this program. So, this is what it is about science and technology industry, I mean, the fields of study or research, right? Maximum 10 people at a time to be sent to Japan. and round trip tickets, the meals, accommodations, even transports in Japan are covered by this fund. So you don't have to spend just to leaving from Japan, leaving from India, then everything will be paid by the Japanese government. So it's a great program for the students to get to know about Japan and to do some research program, joint research program that can be lasting for more than 3 weeks. It can be multiple times of durations for 1 year or 3 years time. So this is a great opportunity that you can consider. So I'm just talking about one of them, but there are certain different schemes available for you to consider as a long-term research and development collaboration between the Indian Institute with the Japanese institutes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're on mute.
Anup, you're on mute, Anup.
Yes, yeah, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Isogoi, for sharing those vital details, because those will be useful for participants also, those who want to explore the opportunities in terms of research and development, and also some academic visits to Japanese universities. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
My next question is to Mr. Mukul Goel. So, sir, as you were head and director of the strategic business management at MRMGF and DLF, and you were also involved in joint ventures, development of joint ventures. So how do you see that experience can be useful for the universities or the private institutions? And what will be your thoughts and guiding points for us as an university when it comes to developing partnerships or the joint ventures with the private sector or the corporate companies?
See, I think the opportunity for joint venture is tremendous with the private sector. I just talked about, the entrepreneurial ecosystem and the incubators. And being an incubator is also like a joint venture, where the university is doing sort of like a joint venture with the incubatee, which is a investor, which is a entrepreneur. Now, when it comes to doing joint ventures with the industry, see, the industry is sort of very busy doing business. And many times the industry will have a problem and they solve that problem with their own means. There are, future forward-looking businesses that will approach the universities that say that, hey, I need some help. Like in my case, I have myself done MOUs with several colleges, where the colleges are providing me a constant supply of interns, and I use the interns in some of my innovation and just do the company work, because my company is doing innovation. So by participating in my company, the students learn about innovation and some intern will become entrepreneurs. So this sort of like a arrangement where the university is participating in supporting my venture by providing interns. Now some faculty are also getting involved in what I'm doing, and whatever work I'm giving to the interns, the faculty is also participating in driving those initiatives. So I think, somebody has to make this start. Either one of your alumni comes back to the university and says that, hey, I need further support of the university in furthering my venture. I mean, definitely you should look at your alumni ecosystem and find out if some of those people have made it big in the world and involve some faculty and students. And I think the university themselves could approach, could create some centers of excellence in the university and say that I have a certain faculty that is really good at doing something. And those people study the existing problems in the industry and go to the industry and say that, hey, I know that you're having this problem and we can solve that problem. So I think, some searching around, some marketing needs to be done by the universities to approach the companies who are innovation hungry. I think, nothing will come on the platter. I mean, sometimes you might have to go out and search and pitch your innovation and renovation capabilities to the industry.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those details, sir. Yes. My next question is to Mr. Amit. Sir, you being from the sector of electronics and communications engineering, what are the current thrust areas in this domain, and how the students or the faculty at university or college level can explore the current, you can say, demands from the industry? And is there any way, particular way, where industry puts up their requirements on a particular forum or through some, you can say, platforms, where academicians come to know, like, these are the thrust areas where industry is looking for? So, yes, your guidance on this.
Yeah. So in the field of electronics, the current thrust area is artificial intelligence and robotics, because central government is also pushing on robotics so much. But actually, the problem is, if we want to collaborate with an industry in the field of robotics, then there are very few companies in private sector companies in India who are actually doing some R&D level of work in artificial intelligence and robotics. There are MNCs, but it is hard to approach the MNCs. You would find a very less amount of this small and medium scale industries who are doing work on automation, artificial intelligence, and robotics. So this is one problem anyway. So, and other than that, if you talk about the platforms where industry tell us what are their requirements, so all these things are actually in pen and paper, because as I said, there are, suppose my requirement is an industry expert in the field of artificial intelligence. But if such a person is not there in my domain, then even I form an industry institution, IIC, suppose, industry institution collaboration cell, then there will be member from some other domain. So I hope I could make you clear. So it is very tough to find an industry expert from the domain what I require, because India has not attained a state where all the relevant and industries are there. So in Northeast India, you would say, find a few small and medium scale industries, but these industries are not really, they're not doing any R&D business out here. They're simply, their main task is to trade material from outside India and sell it in the local market, or some preparing some production industry where actual patent is foreign. So they're not really involved in R&D activity. So it becomes tough for institutes in the Northeast to collaborate with industry and understand industry specific needs so that they can align themselves with the industry requirements.
Right. Yeah. So aligning, and then like maybe like going to these platforms where we come to know what industry needs is the starting point for that matter. Yes. So,
industry conferences. See, I think, all over India, I mean, Indians love conferences, and I keep on getting invitations to, construction industry conferences, or materials conferences, or architectural material conferences, or affordable housing conferences, and whatnot. So, I mean, I think one method to give a larger exposure would be to go to some of these conferences which are subject specific, and there are a lot of industry conclaves and industry fairs. Like in Delhi, you have Pragati Maidan. There are all kinds of things happening over there. So I think universities could simply take a booth in one of those big conferences and just say out aloud that, hey, I'm looking to partner with you guys. So I think, getting out and showcasing yourself is a way. And in the world of internet, you can always reach out to larger companies who are at the forefront of technologies. Like in construction industry, you have L&T and Shahpurji Palonji and the likes of those. I mean, if you approach companies like that, I mean, they are run by very smart people, and they would definitely approach an initiative for faculty and students to jointly work together and help them solve their problems. Because as you know, that industry is in the business of making money, and sometimes they don't have time to solve little problems. So when it comes to innovation, when it comes to R&D, as I again said that, it's not, India does not need R&D all the time. I mean, sometimes it just needs innovation and just put things right, make a process right, make a system right. And even if you are importing a technology from outside, just because you have a technology imported from outside does not mean that it will gain adoption in the Indian scenario. So getting a technology and getting a product from outside and adapting it to the Indian needs is also innovation. I mean, these days, like if I see in the construction industry, there are lots of new products that are coming in from other countries. So the entrepreneurs are trying to figure out that how to use those products and how to train the manpower and adapt these products to the Indian scenario and make it sellable and affordable in the Indian scenario. So I feel the innovation need not be only fundamental research where you are inventing something, making some existing thing work, replicating a business or a product that is existing in another country in Indian scenario. I think even if we can just do what developed countries have already done, that is also innovation. You don't need to do some fundamental research and create a patent out of it.
Right. Yes, sir. Very valid and very insightful thought that you have shared. Like innovation need not be something new. Like even adapting some products or some technologies to the our context, like Indian context, is also kind of an innovation, because the product or the technology may be already there, but which is not suitable to our Indian subcontinent. So making it adaptable is also one of the innovations. Yes, sir. Like, thank you for this thought. Yes, just
yeah. Let me just add, if I may.
Yes,
I
sir.
think yes, Mr. Goyal's point is very valid, and from the academia, the institutes, private or public, they can invite all those expertise, associations, collaboration partners, knowledge partners, invite those expertise from Japan to come to India, or just to do it in online, so that you can start collaborating, you can start setting up some projects, you can start a joint venture, joint research programs and so forth. And if that can be recognized by the government, they may give you some funding, partial funding or whatever it is. That is kind of a system has to be established, I think, for long term. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Very valid point. Like it should not be only a copy-paste approach, but it should be the technology has to be customized according to the local needs and local scenario. Like just to mention one example, like Japan is very ahead in terms of infrastructure technology, isn't it? But like if we want to construct a bridge in Japan, and we cannot just copy-paste the technology in India, because geographical conditions are different in India when it comes to the Japan. So yes, so you cannot just have a copy-paste approach, but it has to be customized and adapted to the local conditions.
One more thing, if I may add, is that Japan has been excellent in the developments and innovation in hardware, right, machines, right? Robotics also good, but not so strong in the software, right? Now is the time that I think Indian people and Indian institutes have expertise and full knowledge and resource in the software developments. Artificial intelligence or IoTs are the things that required for the innovation of the future. And Japan has expertise in the hardware. India can provide the software expertise. We can work together. This collaboration between India and Japan will make the strongest to compete against China, compete against US. We can't just leave a GAFA to dominate the world. We can't just endure that. We can create India and Japan collaboration can create some new technology, new innovations, new kind of business model, so that India can start becoming the great economy and great potential to the worldwide market. Why not? We can do together. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like a symbiotic relationship. Yes, between the two countries. Yes. So we have a question from Mrs. Nalini Wagmare. What she's asking is, science and technology subjects get more fund for research than social sciences. Where and which industries collaboration with social sciences? And please give an example. So how do you see these things like social
area of study that Japan has done to a certain extent, but it's not really, very well known and popular amongst the people and the industry and the academia as well. This can be developed, certainly by the both hands, by Indian government, Japanese government, if they think of the usage and benefit and all the societal benefits to the Japanese environment, because Japan, as you may know, the fastest growing aging population, which requires a lot of care about health and medical stuff. So I see a lot of potential in that sector as well. And as I was talking about Sakura Science Plan by the JST, Japan Science and Technology Agency, they have started to consider that the social science fields can be added and accommodated into this program, so that even the study students, faculties, professors in this domain can also be able to apply for this program, so that they can start communicating with Japan, associating with them, and sending some students and faculty to Japan to interact with them and to learn about some of the developments in this field in Japan, and then take them back and they start joint research programs and so forth. I hope this is not done yet, but I hope this will be happening in a very near future. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, yes. Goel sir, can you share your thoughts on this? Like, how do we relate the social sciences and the science and technologies?
I think I think the social science is a very broad term, and I would take the liberty to assume that when she is talking about social science, she is talking about the developmental sector, that has to do with upliftment of the not so empowered or endowed. So for the developmental sector, you have this whole developmental sector economy driven by NGOs and the Clinton Foundation and the Bill Gates Foundation and the Obama Foundation and Oxfam International and all that. And this NGO sector has almost become like an industry in India, where so many people are starting NGOs. So I think the universities have a strong position to participate in the developmental sector, where some of the international developmental funding agencies are really looking for credible organizations to take up the initiatives of their developmental goals by the virtue of doing some research or by the virtue of doing implementation of their developmental programs. So either by, and a lot of these developmental programs, they are short of manpower. And even many of the NGOs are India, they need funds to get manpower. And the universities have students who themselves might want to look for a career in the developmental sector. So I think universities could connect with the developmental sector international funding organizations, also with some of the larger or smaller NGOs in India, and create some sort of a synergies where a piece of the grant that comes from either Indian government or the foreign government, the universities can also participate in those.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. So before we go to Day, sir, I request participants to post your questions in the question and answer section if you have any questions. Yes, Day, sir, what is your thought on connecting social sciences with science and technology?
Yeah, actually, we are conducting, most of the universities and engineering colleges are conducting Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So you all of have heard about Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So in that Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, development of the uh, rural society or deprived society, the development, identifying some needs and issues of such type of a society and working on that, if possible, develop a technological solution on that is one of the aspect of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So universities are now collaborating with we are also collaborating with some remote villages and trying to understand. Students are visiting remote villages. They're trying to understand their problems. Even they visit the paddy fields, if they can do some innovation in the paddy field. So we're doing this type of thing. Apart from that, because the participant has the question is regarding how industry can be collaborated with some development in the social science. So I think development of the social some aspect of this social issues are covered under company CSR also. So but I'm not sure. Might be it gets covered under company CSR. So they can approach industries as well. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Day, sir. Thank you for highlighting that Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So in a way, we are already connecting the social sciences with science and technology,
Yes,
bring
yes, yes.
social sciences to the mainstream. Yes, very important point to bring to the platform. Yes. Then next question is from Mr. Satish Pathak, and this question is to all panel members from him. So in case of inventions related to industries, pilot projects must be supported by industries. And what he's saying is, I see a reluctance from industries to support new technologies by innovators. Any comments on this? And this question is to all three panel members he has put up. So, yes, Desir, you would like to go first with this question?
Um, I totally do not disagree with this question. Yes, because I've seen people, students, developing some new projects and then move from company door to company door for getting some very small amount of fund even. Then it is one thing, but I believe that if you approach the relevant industry, suppose I am preparing some, I'm doing some innovation in the field of say image processing, and if I go to in a company that deals with uh, say architecture company, so image processing, architecture are not very much related things. So obviously my prospect of getting funds from that company will reduce. So yes, it might be an issue that that relevant industry may not be available locally. Then yeah, those issues might be there.
Yes, yes. And when you come, when you say like tapping the right company, I think the platform like Indcon is an ideal platform.
Yes, right.
Bring experts from different industries and trying to connect them with the academia. So I think these platforms are playing vital role. As Indcon 2021, we are like from 3 days we are discussing the same issues like what industry expects and what academia needs to do, and in a way how we can develop this symbiotic relationship for the research and development. Yes, Goel sir, what are your thoughts on this? Like, and
See, honestly, I really don't think there is so much of challenge that you are saying that, I mean, industry is not really resistant to supporting innovation. I mean, I think industry runs by innovation and every entrepreneur is an innovator. And I think I'll again go back to my old point. I mean, the industry looks for return on investment. Industry looks for alternatives. So, I mean, if the solution, the idea, or the resources that you are providing can help a industry, introduce some new products or reduce their cost, I mean, they would welcome it. I mean, I really don't think there is a problem there. And in the world of internet, in LinkedIn, Facebook, you can just, go out and talk to people. I mean, and then there is a venture capital investor system. If you have a brilliant idea that has been generated by you and your students, you can approach some of the angel investors and the VCs. There is nothing stopping you from doing that. I mean, I think industry in the today's environment is very much interested in innovation and innovative ideas that can get commercialized and see the light of the industry.
Right, yes. So I think Mr. Satish Pathak's question is answered. So he has additional supplementary question to it. Fundraising for core technology companies is also more challenging. And what is the way out? Yes, Isugai sir, you would like to come in and answer?
Well, I don't know much about that, but if that is the truth, then I just can suggest that academia can play a big role, giving, providing some platforms for the incubators as well as innovators to come along and to present themselves. And there can be kind of a contest or something like that as a competition to come up with some innovative ideas to be, into a realistic world of industry, when if some of the industry people can adapt that kind of technology and so forth, there should be some great opportunities for all innovators to come up and show them and present them, in front of the industries all around. I think it is a great opportunity right now and great time to do so, because the online system is going on and everything can be done online, not on a conference, physical conference level. So I think there should be some kind of new platforms should be made available in those innovations and innovators to meet the industrialists, to make it as a implement it as a great projects to implement. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. Next question is from Mr. Raj Hatkar. What he's saying is, can you present some of any thoughts, what are your thoughts on Indian Jugaad concept and how relevant it is in your opinion? Yes. Yes,
Who are you?
Yeah.
You see, I mean, Jugaad is just a Hindi translation of the word innovation. I mean, I think every innovation is a Jugaad. And what is innovation? To make something out of nothing. So, I mean, I really don't differentiate. I mean, in the literal terms, you can say Jugaad is a very crude innovation, but innovation is innovation, whether it is Jugaad or innovation. So I think there is a plenty of potential for Jugaad also, which I believe is innovation only. You just need to come up with a viable idea and being able to monetize it.
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah. Desir, you were about to say something.
No, it's Jugaad, a very popular term. And actually, engineers, if they don't know Jugaad, then probably they won't pass out from academic institutions. So right. Jugaad is
engineering.
Yeah, Jugaad is engineering. Yes, sir. Right.
Like Indian adaptation of the innovation, as you were already mentioning earlier, like we need to adapt the technologies so that the innovation word has been adapted in the Indian context.
Yes. Right.
Yes. I think Jugaad is, as far as I know, because I'm not Indian, so I may not be understanding the full concept of Jugaad, but I see the positive side of it is flexibility and innovation as well, and creating something totally from almost small amount of resources available and or assets and so forth. So I think this is a great concept for Indian industry and academia as well, to give a birth to a new innovation. Because, for example, in Japan, the Japanese mindset, there is no single Jugaad, nothing. Everything must be, systematic and following the rules, standards, meeting the deadlines, and so forth. So everything has to be rigid, rigidly controlled. So because of this lack of jugaad concept, Japan has lost their ground in the competitiveness edge. Competing against China, they have jugaad concept. They do have jugaad concept. So I think it's a great concept that we can incorporate when we start working together. As I've been telling you, India, the software expertise, and Japan, the hardware expertise. If they, come together, we get together and work together. The Indian concept of jugaad has to be incorporated into that to adopt into the Indian context, so that it can become, stronger and competitive. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll just like to add to it, like jugaad is kind of a thing where you come up with the invention or a technology where there is no facility, where there is lack of, you can say, infrastructure and other things, and still you come up with the solution. So finding a solution in the facility or the in the current situations, I think that is jugaad.
Right. Yes.
Yes. So we are about to finish the, our session. So if I may request each panel member for just a 1 minute closing remark from each one of you, just for like maybe 30 seconds or so. We can start with Goel, sir.
The company that I am running, MakeMeBuilder.com, the goal of my company is to promote innovation and entrepreneurship amongst youth. And pretty soon, my company would be rolling out a program in which graduating students can enroll in the whole notion of how to become an entrepreneur in the construction industry, and give people and expose students how to start their own business in the construction industry, whether it's a civil engineer or an architect or an interior designer, as opposed to trying to get a job after graduation. And thank you very much for giving this platform. And I look forward to more discussions and collaborations in multiple fronts of your university with my university. So, I'm ready to begin the collaborations that you have been talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, Isogai, sir, you would like to give your closing remarks? Yeah.
Yeah, as a closing remark, I just mention again how important it is for India to collaborate with Japan in academia and the private sector and industries. There are a lot of potentialities still to be sought after, because we become the strongest partners in the end for long term. We need to start from the academia. We need to start from the younger generation to get to know each other and to get the best out of each other and come up with a solution and great innovation that can be brought to industry level as well. So with the help of governmental support also, that can be accelerated even further. And Northeast India is one area that Japan is committed to. So please consider that is important point that you can take advantage of. So Japanese government, Japanese people, Japanese investors are looking at Northeast India as a new potential area for to enter. So let's take a look at that. Thank you.
Yes, Deser, your remarks.
Yeah. Thank you, Isogo sir. I will definitely talk with higher authorities of my university, and thank you, Goel sir, also for I may contact you regarding your initiatives. And I would really say that I'm very fortunate that I could take part in this Indcon 2020-21. Even I really learned a lot from the learned speakers and organizers of this Indcon 2020-20. So I wish all the best, and yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, yes.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you all panel members like Mr. Mukul Goel, Mr. Tomi Isogai, and Dr. Amit Sharma. Thank you for your insightful thoughts and giving us some directions in terms of sustainable research and development. And participants are already responding positively. that they are saying it's very innovative and useful session. So thank you for your presence. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and guiding us for the sustainable development. It was a fantastic session. I hope everyone must have enjoyed it. And we look forward to more interactions like this with you, because that will keep us in the sustainable mode, isn't it? Because we should not stop only with one session, I think. Yes. So thank you all participants. Thank you for being there patiently and involving in the interactions. Yes. And
before we conclude, Kaya sir, may I?
yes, sir. Yes, madam, please.
Yeah. Praveen Patil sir, I think I'll request you to give your concluding remarks.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Purnima, and a very engaging dialogue we had this morning. Thanks to Mr. Mukul Goyal, Mr. Tomio Isugoi, and Amitava Day. I think your inputs were quite good, and I made note of a couple of things which we think that will help us, Mr. Tomio, it was very interesting to see that the Japan government has funds available for doing joint research between Indian universities and Japanese universities or institutions. That's one area we'd love to tap and see what can be done specifically for the private universities. And I mean, that will be a great contribution in removing the challenges and impediments that Indian universities are facing in terms of funding. Mr. Mukul's one point I really appreciate, that adapting innovation already done elsewhere and not just trying to innovate all over again is a great idea. Adapting to the local condition itself is innovation. So that's also a good insight. And so all kind of research projects that we work on should rely on some research done elsewhere, so that there is a combined success, and the learning curve is much more shorter. I've also made note of inputs from Mr. Amitava Dev, and while quite a lot of points we discussed, one thing that struck me is lack of industry in Northeastern region is an impediment for quality research for institutions in Northeast, and how and what can be done. We will incorporate this into our white paper that we are creating by region, and we would love to submit that to the government to see how companies from this part of the world can go there and kind of facilitate it and help you do better quality research in the Northeastern sector. Overall, it was a good interaction. Thank you very much for sparing your time. And I want to share with you that no suggestion, input received from you will go waste. And we are recording all these sessions, and we are creating white papers by region, so that based on inputs that we get from each one of you would be submitted to the government in order to make sure that we have a better ecosystem for research and development in the country. Thank you once again, each one of you, for sparing your time and coming and presenting your views and on the platform of Indcon 2021. Thank you so much.
Namaskar. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. I would just like to make an announcement before we close this session. First of all, I would sincerely like to thank all the dignitaries for providing such insightful inputs. And thank you, Dr. Kare, for making the session so interactive and having so many questions from our participants and attendees, because they were also coming up with a lot of questions in the Q&A session. Moving ahead, dear audience, I would like to announce that the next session is scheduled at 12 p.m. today, which is on the theme, will the NEP 2020 be helpful in promoting research and development culture in India? We start sharp at 12 p.m. We break for hardly 20 minutes. And please stay tuned and join us back at 12 p.m. for the next session. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you.